So I'm going to continue with the upper posteriors to occlude with my lower posteriors that are on a flat plane. I'm going to start with my second bicuspid. I'm going to soften the wax. Now I'm pretty sure I'm going to try to set up this with a lingualized occlusion, which means the lingual cusp of the second molar will fit into the distal fossa of the lower second bicuspid. So the lingual cusp of the upper, the stamp cusp, will hit right in the distal fossa of the lower 5. I've got a sliver of a diastema here between 3 and 4 that I may close up if I rotate the canine at a later time. But I can see here I have a tooth-to-tooth relationship. This would be the standard cusp-marginal ridge relationship back here. And now I'm going to do lingualized setup, which is anterior position up here. So I have 5 occluding with 5. I have the lower lingual cusp occluding with the, upper lingual cusp hitting into the occlusal fossa of the 5. So it's a tooth-to-tooth relationship, the lingualized setup. One thing I don't have here is, let me just lift this up a little bit more, is the amount of overjet that I wish to have. Overjet of the posterior. It seemed to be kind of tilting in a bit on my occlusal scheme. I'm just going to soften the wax again. Let's see if I can achieve lingual cuspus. There we go. So I have it open in the posterior, in the end, in the overjet here. I have this open of the buccal overjet. If I look here, I've got the right plane of occlusion. I'll move it slightly a bit more. And I'll move on with 6 and 7. A sliver of diastema between 3 and 5, which I'll probably go back and close up somehow. I can do that by reducing the overjet of the canine. As you can see, I've got still about 3 millimeters of overjet in the canine. I may compress that slightly. Okay, now you might be saying, well, isn't that the contour of the bite block? Possibly, but we're talking there is some freedom in the location of the anterior teeth. I mean, how exact was the practitioner in sculpting the labial contour of the occlusion rim? I mean, I still have some freedom of, up to a millimeter each way. I'd like to think I do. And I have data to prove that from actual treatment plans done with patients. So I'm going to soften up the posterior segment here. Let's reintroduce number 6. Try not to get any wax on the occlusion. And as you can see here in this position, is perfect tooth-to-tooth relationship, 6 on top of 6, with a slight amount of overjet still in the posterior segment. And then I'll move on to number 7. Keep in mind, I'm thinking of waxing up all the time. So I'm going to, might as well start now. I'm pretty happy with where that tooth is. I'm going to add some wax around the collar, the gingival margin. Anticipate the waxing stage. Let's re-soften the wax here. I may run into room if I hit this tuberosity of base plate here. And this falls into place. Now, I only have half the setup done of the posterior section, but what I'd like to show you at this stage is if I was to put the articulator into an excursive movement without any contact of the other side, obviously, that the lingual cusp rides up the buccal inclined planes of the lower teeth slowly, and I have balanced occlusion, except number 7 is open. Number 7 is open, and distal of 6 is open. How much? Dr. Gysi's amount. 0.5 millimeter, millimeter and a half. But I'm going to add that in later. I don't find it too taxing to increase the compensating curve of the lowers. But now, for education purposes, I need you to get this straight. with experience, you can incorporate that compensating curve into your setup, possibly by just using a flat plane to the mesial buccal cusp of number 6 of the lower, and then conversely angling them up compensating curve-wise. But you might say, well, why are we doing things twice? Well, for education purposes, if I can't get them flat, how can I even get them with an incline? So let's start just by making things touch a plane first. And then we can add some experience after and put that compensating curve in as we go. So this side's done. I'll move over to the other side here. Reduce the wax to what I think I'm going to need to adhere the denture teeth in the wax. I'm going to heat up the wax. Now I'm anticipating this side to be similar to the other side. Should line up okay. I'll put in number 5. And it's a tooth-to-tooth relationship where number 5 falls into the distal fossa of the lower 5. It's not back here like a class 1. Now some of you, when we did the class 2 setup, made this lingualized occlusion with these teeth by accident. And I said, oh, that's fine. I even closed this diastema up. I just moved my canine in to reduce the overjet. I should not have done that so soon, but I think I'm ready for number 6. I think it's really helpful if you have alcohol in your alcohol torch and wax in your wax pod. The wax is somewhat soft. If we're going to get serious about doing the denture setup, then make sure that you have anticipation to finish what you started. And we're going to start with conviction. Now, there's no time lapse here. This is done real time, so I haven't checked the counter, but I'm guessing for a full upper and lower denture setup, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, it can be done in under a half hour, but I'm thinking realistically 45 minutes to an hour. I'm just guessing. We should count the timer on all 4 segments of upper 6, lower 6, lower 6 posterior, and upper 6 posterior. I'm checking the overjet is consistent on all the teeth on both sides. The freeway space is consistent on both sides. Once I'm satisfied, I'm going to go and lute the wax, lute the teeth into the wax a little bit more solidified. This one seems to have fallen a bit. I'm going to push it up. There we go. A little too soon to check excursive movements because the wax is still in a molten state. I'll just push the teeth around. I'm going to wait till it solidifies just a bit. So what excursive movements am I going to check? Protrusive, that I have tip-to-tip contact in the posterior section and in the anterior section. They are incisal edge to incisal edge. This increases denture stability. I think this is a common thread through all denture occlusal philosophies, that we have group function, that we have balance, with 3-point contact. If you take postgraduate denture setup courses, they'll say, well, can I get 1 cusp, 2 cusps, 3 cusps? thinking as many as we can. And if we can't achieve them all with the denture manufacturer's tooth form shape, then we'll have to anticipate doing it with a handpiece. And cleverly manipulating the denture shapes of the teeth to achieve the group function. So I'm just waiting for this wax here to set up as I'm going around cleaning some of the excess wax, adding some, anticipating my wax up. I know I'm going to put some compensating curve in right now. So I'm going to check, I'm going to loosen the condyles. I would start with protrusive movement, which is really obvious to see the space I'm missing here on compensating curve. So how much compensating curve do I need? That much. My anterior stops, I've held them with my finger here. They're touching each other. So I'll go ahead. Oh, I should check the other side illustratively. I'm sure it's identical. Yes. And then balancing contacts, same thing, kind of close. Kind of close. So I'm going to elevate the distal of 6, 7. Try not to incorporate too much Wilson curve or Monson sphere. I don't think it's necessary unless we're doing a 0-degree setup. Then we can introduce more of the curve of Wilson into our denture setup. And then I'll do the other side at the same time. Now, if I close the articulator, obviously the teeth will hit prematurely in the posterior segment because I lifted these up. When I lift them up, I just don't stick them up. I got to keep in mind the ridge line, central groove. Now, I know many people out there saying, well, you're doing things twice. When you have some experience, you can do it all at once. If you're using average values of 30 degrees, it's not going to change from day to day. It'll be the same the next day. If you're doing protrusive bite records with condylar guidances of 10, 20, 30, 40, then you can adjust accordingly, providing you have experience with the denture teeth that you're using. But this is the novice or beginner to novice. So I think if we can get things on a flat plane, let's start there. And if we can get that, then it'll be very easy to move forward. I'll even take number 7s off just to make sure they don't get in the way. And I'll depress the distal of 7. I'm waiting for this to set up here. I'm very close to the right amount of compensating curve. I'll reheat the wax. Now I got to be careful that the wax on the bottom is solidified. I'm going to check protrusive at the same time. That mesial buccal cusp of 6 seems to be sticking out of the plane of occlusion, or out of this buccal line angle. Very good. Be careful not to hit this base plate back here with the tooth. If I need, I can always trim the tooth slightly. Number 7, centric occlusion, protrusive contacts, balancing contacts, protrusive contacts, balancing contacts. Not quite 100% till I change this number 6 on the other side was prematurely occluding with the lower 6. I did not change this one. lingualized occlusion, balancing contacts with anterior just kissing and missing, protrusive contacts, smooth transition between anterior. If I have any eccentric contacts, I can eliminate them with the handpiece, but I'll probably wait chairside to eliminate any eccentric contacts. On this side, protrusive movements, balancing contacts, and anterior protrusive contact simultaneous as the posterior contact. Just slightly on this side. So, I would say this is about 95% of the contacts that I need. And with the deformation of wax and injection technique of plastics and processing and submucosa, I will use the patient as the real articulator with articulating paper and interocclusally check upon insertion and fine-tune the denture intraorally. Oops, drop this from 30 here. And all that's left to do is wax up for trying. Thank you.